Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. My name's Chris and I'm one of the co-founders of Saucer. And today I'm joined by David Wolstenholme. David's the founder of BrandMeBetter, and they are a niche consultancy based out of Sydney, Australia. And their main focus is looking at supporting recruiters and agency owners all around personal brand and what they can do to start improving that. So I think it's pretty fair to say that online brand is probably more important now than ever for our industry. And today I'll be chatting with David about his journey, how he got into this, and really all his thoughts on everything personal brand, not only during what's happening with COVID at the moment, but how businesses and recruiters can start to look at the future and how they implement things themselves. Myself and David have been chatting a while now, since he was back in Asia. And even more so now he's been in Sydney, and I know personally his advice and perspective on all this stuff has been really valuable for me. So I'm pretty sure the audience is going to get a lot of value too. Before we jump in, bit of housekeeping. So there's a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions as you're going through this, pop your questions in the right-hand panel throughout, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can at the end. So without further ado, welcome David.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending, and Chris, thank you for having me.
Not a problem, mate. Not a problem. And look, I think with all things like this, the best place that we can probably start is, I do my best, but it'd be great to get a bit of an intro from you for the audience. So if you could tell us a bit about yourself, BrandMeBetter, and really how you got into this space with helping recruiters with personal brand.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with a story, and I'll keep it short. I won't bore you, but I was a recruiter a number of years ago, and for a couple of years I was in recruitment. And I'm sure in this audience today there's a lot of recruiters that were far better than I was. So I was an okay one. I wasn't a great one. But I left the industry thinking it's a very, very challenging job, but it's wonderful, wonderful job once you've worked in it. But a lot of people who haven't worked in it don't understand it. But I also thought that there's just something missing. There was something missing, and I couldn't put my finger quite on it. And then for 5 years, I worked in a strategy management and marketing consultancy. So I learned a lot about business brands and smart marketing and strategic planning. And so an opportunity came up when I moved overseas, and I ended up consulting to a couple of mates recruitment agencies. And I then had an aha moment that I realized that, is there a sector more important than recruitment where your personal brand is critical and how you market you? And at the time, nobody was really helping recruiters with this. And that's where BrandMeBetter was born. So I designed a program for, really it was around recruitment leaders, recruitment managers, and senior career recruiters. But my service offering has evolved, and I've run workshops with wider teams now as well. So really, I'm on this crusade, and if anyone's connected with me on LinkedIn, this mission of mine is just to make recruiters' lives easier, drive their business results, and get them to understand the benefits of not just brand marketing, but living and breathing your brand as well.
Awesome. And I know we've talked a lot about this, and it's, recruitment traditionally has been a pretty outbound industry, I think it's fair to say. And, I think one of your goals that you speak to me about is trying to transition that and use personal branding to make it more of an inbound approach for these consultants and agencies out there. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, ultimately, we all want to build a community, and the better we can get people to like and trust us, the easier our work becomes. You get more referrals. In an ideal world, yes, we would love inbound leads coming in every day. Are you going to get enough of those to not have to do business development and sales? Absolutely not. Unless you're the most amazing marketer in the world, very unlikely. And so, great marketing plays a wonderful, wonderful warm-up act to sales. And, recruitment's a ridiculously competitive industry. And so anything you can do to differentiate yourself, to build trust easier, to connect with people at a different level in a different way, is only going to put you at an advantage to your competitors.
Spot on. It's it all forms part of reputation, doesn't it? And when we talk about brand, particularly taking your brand and transferring that online, where people may have not met you face to face, or may have not you may have not had that opportunity to build a rapport. It's really important that your brand reflects that across your digital footprint, which is, ultimately anywhere that clients or candidates can be looking.
Yeah, well, I was looking at your Facebook pictures this morning, Chris. It was quite disturbing, so I learned a bit about you. No, absolutely. We're in the world of information, and we can just Google people, we can go onto LinkedIn, we can find out an awful lot, and you've got the ability to orchestrate that, but they've got to marry up. You can't be one thing online and one thing offline. It's got to marry up, and that's a big piece in the puzzle for a lot of people that they haven't worked out.
So my takeaway from this anyway is to make my Facebook page private. But
absolutely. I didn't realize you drank so much.
It was an older time, trust me. But yeah, so let's not beat around the bush. Obviously, today's world's a challenging time for a lot of us. But what's life been like for you? How's it impacted you? Both personally and with business.
You mean with what's going on with COVID, or you mean just in general?
Yeah, well, in general, but obviously COVID is a big part of everyone's lives at the minute, and it's impacted us all in some way, shape or form. So just keen to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I'm going to use a swear word, and I'll try and move away from any swear words. It's a bit shit. It's a lot shit for a lot of people. But I want to paint a picture that might be not the picture that people think and see. And so a lot of businesses weren't doing as well as they would like to paint before COVID. Their economy wasn't as strong as what people think it was. And COVID was just brutal, and it just took it over the edge, should we say.
Yeah.
So, what I've found from my own research and work is that the companies that have been hit hard, or the agencies that have been hard, are more the larger boutiques and the mid-size, where they haven't got huge pots of cash, and their costs are high. They might have middle management, and they've got marketing and different resources. And so, if they're working in a sector that's also recruiting in a sector that's been hit hard, it's Mike Tyson stuff. They've been punched in the face. So what have I seen in the last few weeks? I think leaders have had to stand up. They've had to make some really big decisions, and they've had to go and get support. And they are now in a position where they've got to motivate. They've got to try and make people survive and thrive. And I think it's best that it's those leaders that have experienced tougher times. No one's experienced COVID. Nobody might ever experience a COVID situation again. But that's something that they need to address.
Yeah, I think just on that as well, David. I know most of us here will be familiar with Greg Savage, and I think it's one of the things that he's talked about a lot recently is you have to be the chief energy officer of your business. You as a leader are responsible to motivate and make sure that the team does stay positive through something that could easily turn into a negative.
Absolutely. I mean, the big part about recruitment is mindset. And so you've got to be in a mindset that enables you to keep planning your day, kicking the wins. There's going to be more losses. There's going to be times where you're just not getting through to people, not talking. You're not getting deals. We all love deals. And that might not be happening. So how do you keep motivating yourself? And, there's going to be self-motivation, but there's also going to be support as well.
Yeah. And how are you seeing agencies react to this?
That's a good question. And I'll tell you from a personal perspective, I was really worried about my own business because I just thought it was going to fall off a cliff. I had events cancelled with the RCSA. But the reality is that, challenging times brings out different things. And for a lot of people, it's time. They can reflect and look at what they're doing. And my business, as I said, I thought was going to fall off a cliff. It's gone the opposite direction. Personal branding and marketing is something that people have talked about for a long time, not really done too much about it. And so, like, the interest in the business I'm winning is just, I'm so appreciative of it, but it's also surprising. But, I've been piping on about this for quite a few years now online, and it seems that people are making that leap, more people are making the leap, which is fantastic.
Yeah, also, I think, a lot of the agencies that I've spoken to, it's down to time. Now, a lot of agencies aren't billing day in, day out. They have time to sit back, look at their own brand or their agency brand from a different lens or perspective and say, look, this is my opportunity to put myself into a position where we know this is going to end at some point. How can I make sure that I'm in an even stronger position, actually stand out above my competitors when we do get through the end of this and the market
Absolutely.
up again? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, it's fair to say at the moment, a lot of us are working remotely. We're seeing a spike of content on things like LinkedIn, and the world's more online than it's ever been. So with that in mind, what do you think recruiters should be doing to adapt to this?
It's a good question. Well, to start with, there's a lot of poor content online. And bland messages. So it's all about differentiating. I really believe that just jumping on and trying different things isn't always the best strategy or tactic. It might work for some people, but it might not work for a lot of people. And so again, you want to differentiate. And before you get into the branding side of personal brand, you really need to understand, well, what is your personal brand? And this is going to be an easier process for somebody who's got 20 years experience as opposed to someone who's been in the industry for 1 year. But for me, personal brand, and everyone's got their own interpretation of it, it fits into two things. It's your personality and your reputation. And I scribbled something down earlier, but to go deeper into this, it's your unique promise of value, it's your values, it's your skills, your strengths, your passions, it's what other people say about you because they own your brand. It's how you make them feel, your key differentiators, the problems you solve, it's your personality, your story, and your experiences. And when you get your head around all of that, that's where your authenticity lies. And everyone talks about authenticity. It's a bit of a bullshit word, isn't it? But the reality is that people crave authenticity. So we often try to be like other people. But once you're really clear about what your brand is, then it becomes so much easier. And the other thing with all of that is before you actually get into that component of branding, why waste time? One of the things I was bad at as a recruiter is I wasted too much time sometimes with the wrong type of clients and candidates. Now, the reality is if you're marketing yourself really well, you can talk the language to those types of ideal clients and candidates and, retract people that might not be right for you. That's something recruiters don't do. So, get so clear about who are the people that I really, really want to work with and get into the deeper analysis of what they look like, what their needs and desires and wants are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just a specialization, really. It's, looking at the different businesses that you work with and say, who do I align with? And ultimately, if you can get that alignment, you're going to be able to provide better outcomes.
Yeah.
And I know we've chatted a lot about, what recruiters may need to do to obviously improve their personal brand, and a lot of it comes down to planning and implementation. But on the flip side, you can probably overplan as well, right? It's the most difficult thing is just making that first leap into changing whatever your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing, so it's fair. Again, there's some people that just try different things and it works for them, and fantastic. But so many recruiters try things a few times and fall off and just go back to doing what they're doing. It's because they really, really don't know their brand and they don't know how to create value. So you're right, but you death by analysis. You can plan and plan and plan and plan and plan, and then nothing gets done. So there's a happy medium with all of them. But from my experience, and maybe this is because of what I sell, it's a process and a journey that you've got to go through, and it just makes that kind of implementation so much easier.
Yeah, your first webinar or your first video online is never going to be the best one, but it's it's a starting block, and it's something that you can iterate on. And
yeah,
we're seeing personal brand a hell of a lot more being mentioned even during COVID, and there's a lot of probably shit consultants out there who say they're personal branding experts, but not particularly great at even branding themselves, which puts a question mark on it. But if we look at personal branding as a whole, I know this is probably quite a generic question, but what can recruiters start doing to look to improve theirs?
I'm coming to this. I'd like everybody, if they're listening to this and they think what I'm saying is of value, to write this down, because I think people often are expecting me to talk about creating great videos and writing articles, and a lot of people aren't natural content marketers. It's bloody difficult. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of consistency and testing, and things work and don't work, like anything. And it's not necessarily your area of expertise, or you need to improve that. So one of the things that I do a lot of research. When I'm working with clients, I research their online brand. I look at their competitors and how they position in the marketplace. And one of the things that I've identified all the way through this process is, you've heard the terminology social selling.
Yeah.
A lot of recruiters just bandage social selling into creating content. But the reality is that social media and digital really is about creating conversations. And I look at what they're doing with their activity. And yes, they're liking stuff that their clients or prospects that they want to deal with. But there's an amazing opportunity to be having conversations with those people. So you've got to know where your audience hang out. Be asking questions. And I thought of an example this morning. Let's just say you're a construction recruiter, and the MD of a mid-tier builders has put a project they've just finished for $45 million, and the immediate reaction is to just hit like. This might be somebody that you're not working with, but you want to kind of build a bit of rapport with. Ask some questions about that project. Why did it finish 3 months earlier? What's been the impact of that? And just create some conversation. It doesn't have to be recruitment driven. And that is the way that you're going to build your reputation, build your brand, and get people to like and trust you, because not everyone's going to follow your content and your articles and your videos. But it's a huge gap that I see that recruiters and recruitment leaders are missing out on. So know where your target audience is, ask questions, give your advice, support them. It's called social selling. Now, it's not as powerful as really effective marketing, and it's certainly not as powerful as great phone calls. But for me, it's like the hare and the tortoise, the rain. Hare and the tortoise. The tortoise is a slow game branding. And people are wary of recruiters. They've often been burned. They're distrusting. So anything you can do to create some conversations online, you then reach a point where you can actually take that offline, and people will want to talk to you. And I see very few recruiters ever doing that.
Yeah. No, I think we've all fell into the trap before, and I know we're guilty of it. Even in our company, it's also where you think engagement just means liking a post, but no one remembers who likes the post, but you remember who comments and actually proposes questions and tries to engage on a deeper level. And I think if that ever gets taken offline, whether it's a phone call or whatever other way that may be, that's what gets remembered, and that's actually what warms up the relationship in the first place. So you're absolutely right, and we've seen the results of that ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another way of prospecting and marketing yourself and building your brand, but just a slower, more subtle process. And you can't just write one comment and then for LinkedIn and then try and connect with them or try and sell them something. The next thing might be that you want to share an article or another of their competitors to that MD, using that same example, where they've done a year out of date on that project because it's been a disaster. That might be something else that you can have a little conversation about. But not a lot of recruiters do that through social media. And the other thing as well is we all like to talk about ourselves. So the more you can get them talking about themselves or their project or their baby or whatever it might be, it becomes much easier to sell to them.
Absolutely, mate. So let's think of this from a different angle, because I know there's probably quite a lot of agency leaders in here that are not only looking at it from their sort of personal perspective, but what about that agency level? What can agency leaders be doing different to better position themselves online?
Good question. The first thing is, why are people on social media? And the reason why most of us are on there is because we want to learn from other people. And like any industry, we want to learn from, listen, and potentially work for great recruitment leaders. And so few recruitment leaders are really doing this well online. And it's not my job to persuade you. You have to recognize that it's a wonderful opportunity to, step away from the competition. And when you say positioning is basically, from a marketing perspective, where you hold a space in the minds of your target clients or candidates or employees, depending on how you position your brand. And you need to understand, well, what is that space that I hold? And that's going to come from conducting research, speaking with stakeholders, internal and external stakeholders as well. And the other thing is as well, with business leaders, you should have business objectives. All right, COVID-19 is messy, but you should have strategic plans. You should have business objectives. And you're the leader that should be actually informing through your content what the business is trying to do. It's very easy to just start posting about anniversaries or new people's attending. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm saying this is your opportunity to know what you differentiates you as a leader. And we're craving it. We're craving it in all businesses. We're craving it just as much in recruitment as well.
Yeah, spot on. And look, we've run about a bit over, so I'll probably leave this as the last question before we jump to audience questions. But you left off on content there, and there's two forms of content. There's a content that your agency creates, and then there's a content that your people create. And I know a lot of agency leaders find it difficult to sort of let go of the reins and let the consultants or the team members do what they want online. But how much freedom should they be giving? Should they be giving any? And what's the guideline around that?
It's a really good question. God, that's another good question. Well, the first thing is that you've got to look at different businesses. And so, if you look at multinationals and global recruitment agencies, they tend to have strict policies in place. They're very restrictive in what you say and what you can't say. I personally think that's a mistake. But at the same point, they are billion-dollar businesses, and that's how they've been successful. They've got their leaderships are often given the freer reign to speak, but their consultants aren't. And so they have this huge marketing, well-oiled marketing machine that helps them do that and brings candidates and clients through the funnel. But I think that if I was running an agency, so I'm going to pretend I'm a recruitment leader, I would be giving as much freedom as possible. Yes, I would want them to understand the business brand and the ramifications of doing the wrong things. It could be a one-page policy document. But more importantly,
and that's the guideline of what business expects, right?
Yeah, because you don't want to be doing critical management to save your brand reputation if people start to put the wrong things out there.
Yeah.
But I think, the problem right now is let's put that to one side. Right now, recruiters need to be supported by their leaders to build their brand online. And also as well, leaders need to be respectful that it will have a return on investment for their business. And right now, if you stifle people too much, a lot of recruiters just don't know where to start and they don't know how to market themselves online, or they've got a fear, whatever that might be. If you're, not giving them that freedom and support, then it just carries on. It's just a vicious circle, just goes round and round and round. So, yes, you've got to be protective of your business brand, but right now you need to position yourself. You need to be creating content. You need to give some freedom to those recruiters. And, once they do that as well, it will also help the business brand with their marketing because your consultants will start to get more creative. They'll start to think about different ideas of content, because one of the big frustrations for marketing managers is in agency world is, our recruiters don't give us anything. They've not got the time. But, let's spin that on its head. Let's give them their time. Let's support them. Let's show them results that can come from this. And then your company marketing will improve as well as a byproduct of that.
100%. I think, one of the ways that, just to finalize on one of my points, one of the ways that we look at it as well is often the individuals within our business have put more effort into building their following on, let's say, LinkedIn. So if they're posting up their own content on their own LinkedIn and, speaking their own opinions and trying to establish themselves as a thought leader, it goes out to more people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your company can't get involved with sharing and commenting and things like that, but it just amplifies anything that you do, you know, up to 10 times. It's really powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, this has been my message from the very start. I think sometimes it has to start from the top. So, you know, you've got to see your leaders doing it and inspire consultants and other people in your business to follow suit. You know, and unfortunately, there's a lot of recruitment leaders that don't embrace change in this area, and they have to. You know, because ultimately when this bounces back as well, there's going to be a lot of competition and there's going to be a lot of recruiters on the market looking for work, and you know, they need to be positioned as a leader. They've got to be selling their story, their narrative, the business, and what differentiates them as a leader, so they're attracting those people and being front of mind with clients as well.
Yeah, and that's a great point to finish on. We've had a few questions come through in the chat, so I'm conscious we've gone over a little bit. We'll try and get through as much as we can at the minute, and for anyone who has to drop off, we can obviously send the recording anyway, so you can see the answers to those. But the first one we've got is one from Ruella, and Ruella asks, who would you say in the recruitment market has done a good job of marketing themselves and their personal brand?
Great question. Well, if Ruella wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, as of last week, what I'm doing is I'm writing an article about a recruiter that's got a really great digital brand and just sharing a little bit of their story. Last week was a gentleman by the name of Will McPhee, and I'm publishing one tomorrow on a chap by the name of Mark Pierce in WA. So I'm going to be doing that every week. And this is not people that I'm working with. This is just people that I admire and respect, and I buy into them. It's not just about their online brand. It's what they do offline as well that I've been made aware of. But yeah, if you connect with me, follow those stories, and I'll just keep sharing with them the people that are doing this well. So maybe they can be asking questions and inspire them to do the same thing.
There you go, Roy. Matthew is, are direct emails and LinkedIn your only recommended avenues to market?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, Matthew asked, are direct emails and LinkedIn your only recommended avenues to market?
Absolutely not.
I thought
so just,
answer.
Yeah, just going back to that, you know, if you the way that I described about the slow, soft touch marketing, you know, email marketing, direct mail, good messaging will work, but it will also always turn people off. You know, I always get so many approaches from people and it just turns me off straight away. Sometimes I have to be telling them that that's just not going to work. So you're not working well. So, you know, try different approaches. And one of those I mentioned earlier was just having conversations online and going in a slower way and a different way and seeing what results of that creates. But you know, most people, they get 100 emails a day, they get LinkedIn invites non-stop, they get pitches all the time. You've got to be prepared to stand out and differentiate. If you're doing those great direct messages that are working for you, keep doing them. If they're not, then it's time to change.
Cool. All right, we've got another one coming from David here, your namesake. How do I know what type of content to create?
I lost that. Can you say that again then?
Yeah, sure. This one's from David. How do I know what type of content to create?
Well, there's two things. Number one is, the first one is you want to create content that you feel comfortable creating. So, you know, if you're a terrible writer, you wouldn't want to be writing content, or you might want to really upskill in that area. Again, if you don't feel comfortable in front of a camera, then it's maybe going to come across forced. But the one thing that you've always got to remember is your target audience. What is the kind of content that's going to engage with them? And again, I don't know that. You need to do your research. You need to understand that. I mean, for example, you know, funky 1 minute videos where it's got light music behind and it's all friendly is not going to engage with a senior engineer if that's your target audience. You know, they might want more formal white papers or documents so they can look at the detail. And so you've got to understand, well, the two things is, one, what can you do that's going to be comfortable and you're going to enjoy doing? You don't want it to be a chore. And more importantly, what is it that I do that's going to have an impact on my target audience, either reading it, looking at it, doing something with that content.
Yeah, spot on. And from my perspective as well, content doesn't have to be fully created by yourselves. Go out there and have a look at the people that are creating content that you admire or feel that you're aligned with. There's no harm in copying that. I know it's a shameful word, but look at what other people are doing and try and repurpose that towards what your market is or what your values are. And that's another good start that I find effective too. We'll finish up with this one from Kristen.
Yeah.
Do you have a set of questions one should ask themselves when just starting off to help develop your brand?
That's a really good question. Is she an experienced consultant or is she a relatively new one?
I couldn't tell you, unfortunately.
maybe if she's listening, she could answer that. So I think there's a
new
post
to the industry. There you go.
Yeah. So the thing is, Kristen has not got a reputation in this marketplace right now. So one of the things that I would be doing, this is what brands do, when you're setting up a business brand or a personal brand, is what do I want to be known for? So you need to think about what that is, Kristen. For example, I used this the other day in another webinar, was if you want to be known for the best candidate care recruiter in my marketplace. But the reality is you can't just say those things. You've got to be those things. And, people get a bit mixed up with personal branding and marketing. You've got to live that brand. So, you would then have to always be the person that creates wonderful candidate care. And then how do you then bring that out onto online? You tell stories, you share examples, you give it where you've gone an extra mile for a candidate. You get the candidates to talk about how you're doing that. That's just one example. So, right now, what do you want to be known for, and take that on a journey. Now, it's quite different for other consultants. So I see Donald Breslin's come up. He's a very, very experienced consultant. I see him on LinkedIn sometimes. And, this guy will probably have a really clear differentiator, and he needs to drive that in the marketplace, but he's got to put his stamp on it, his values, his value proposition, his stories, his narrative, how he builds trust and solves problems. But for Kristen, she can't do that right now. So, you've got to think about what it is you want to be known for, and then share things where other people have done great things around candidate care. It doesn't have to be a big competitive field recruitment. You can collaborate with other recruiters that maybe do really care about candidate care and live that online as well.
Great. You mentioned Donald Trump, and I think it'd be rude not to probably answer the question that he's put in the chat now. So we'll probably just extend it for this final question. But what pitfalls should recruiters be avoiding when they are actually building the brand, and then what mistakes do you commonly see?
From a digital perspective, lack of consistency, nothing worse, and also as well, getting too hung up on I call them vanity metrics. So we often look at likes and shares and comments, and engagement is important, but you'll be amazed how many people are lurking and watching you and listening to you and taking your information. So don't get too hung up on that. I've won so much business over the years from people that have never liked, commented on, shared, or any of my content ever, but it's a reason why they've come to work with me or engage my services. So the two things I would say is consistency. Just commit. What are you going to do? Daily, weekly, monthly. Get creative, and just don't get hung up on vanity metrics. And if you're not winning business straight away, you're in for the long haul.
Great. Some wise words there, David. So let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up here, and then just to wrap it up with, what would be really good is just a bit of a summary from you. So for those who are getting started in their personal branding journey, what's the one action that you would say they can take away from today to make that first step?
I'm going to give you three, and I've just spoken about two of them. So the first one is you've got to spend time understanding your own brand, and that's a bit of exploration, because you're putting your heart and soul online, But you really need to know, well, what is unique, what is authentic, what I talked about earlier, these problems that you solve, your values. I've got an obsession with values. Market your highest values like you would not believe. So that would be the first thing I'd do, is spend some time getting to understand this brand of yours. It's a journey. The second one is have more conversations online, which I talked about, not just thinking that you're going to be this whiz-bang content marketer. Experiment. So if you are going to be creating content, experiment with different things. Don't constantly experiment, though. Don't over-experiment. And the last one is don't get obsessive about vanity metrics, because we all do that, and it's very easy. I used to do it a long time ago. It's just not important. It really isn't, because people will buy from you even though they're not engaging with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that insight, David, and thanks to everyone who joined the webinar today. We will be sending the recording out probably tomorrow, so share that with your team. Connect with David on LinkedIn. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions if you slide into his DMs. And yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Don't send any. I'm just about to have a sandwich. No, I'm joking. Thank you for attending, and thank you, Chris, for inviting me.
Not a problem. Take care.
All the best, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Thank you.